Hello, neighbors. I was astonished recently when the 2023 Out of Reach report, which is a report that's about housing, dropped and revealed that we're the most expensive place to rent in America, in the entire country. This is astonishing and unacceptable, and the metrics for it are very interesting. So they calculate this by determining what the housing wage is. And this is the amount of money you need to make per hour in order to spend 30% or less of your total income, on your rent. And in the Santa Cruz County area, that number is nearly $63 an hour. It's just an insane amount of money. So if you're making minimum wage, you need 4 full-time jobs in order to afford rent and have a comfortable life. Now, a lot of us are laughing at the idea of only spending 30%, of your income on rent, and we shouldn't be laughing, right? Yeah, we're laughing and crying at the same time. It's terrible how expensive it's become, to live in our area, and the economic effects spread, through the community, like throwing a rock into a pool. If we're spending 40, 50, 60% of our income on rent, how much money are we spending on vacations, on clothes for kids, at local restaurants? The economic impact is real, and this housing issue has to be addressed. Now, this report didn't provide many solutions, unfortunately. So we're going to have to come up with ideas on our own, as a community, to address the housing shortage and move things forward. Now, of course, the solution isn't just inventory, but a significant part of it is inventory, right? There's no avoiding supply and demand. If we have enough homes for everyone, if we're starting from enough, then we can start to bring these costs down considerably for everyone. Of course, affordable housing is important. We don't want to just build housing, for millionaires or for people who have, great means. We want everyone in our community to be able to have safe housing, reliable housing, and consistent housing. And that's something that's very important to me. My family has experienced housing insecurity, recovering from the CCU fires, as many families have. Other families are 1 or 2 paychecks away from experiencing the same thing. So this is something that is deeply impactful for our region. Now, the county is trying to address some of these issues by streamlining the process to get an ADU built on properties, and that's significant. But there are other areas we can do. We can make change to get ourselves building, to create opportunities for people to own, to rent, to just have housing that is consistent. That is affordable. I think we're at the point now where most folks are on board with transitioning from the no-growth policies, that we've seen in play in the planning department and elsewhere, from the 80s on, to a positive growth policy. The reality of no-growth policies is that they're negative growth policies, right? If it's difficult to build, as things deteriorate, as you lose homes, nothing comes to replace them. So you end up just brutally impacting citizens and making it very difficult for folks to continue, not just to stay in the homes that they own, right? Because if you need to get that septic repair, you have to upgrade to the new code, and if you can't meet that code, what are you going to do? There's a lot that has to be understood, and policies like no-growth policies have outstanding effects. They have effects far down the line that perhaps weren't visible when we first implemented them. But now we know. If we make it difficult to build, we make it difficult to live. And we've got enough going on. I certainly would love it if the building process were streamlined. And I'm not talking about just for large developers, for people building giant, apartment complexes. I mean, for everyone. I can see that there has been some progress made, in the county culture. The Hello ADU program shows that county government is aware that this inventory issue is having a hugely negative impact on our communities here in District 5. And it's all the way down the district. We need to be able to build homes. We need to be able to build these ADUs. We've got to do something. We needed to do something 10 years ago, if not 15 years ago, right? We're behind the ball. We have to have change, and we need it immediately. We've got to get more inventory. We need to focus on affordable housing, right? And that's something that's incredibly important to me and to my family. I rented most of my life. My kids are going to be graduating from high school pretty soon, and I'm worried that they're not going to be able to stay here. Well, I'm not worried. I know they're not going to be able to stay here if they want to move out and start a life with their friends. When I was young, yeah, a very long time ago, I moved out of my parents' home in Campbell into a 3-bedroom townhouse that was quite nice, called the Cedar Glen Apartments. And at the time I moved into them, it cost about $1,450 a month for our 3-bedroom. So I was hustling, working at Starbucks, and I paid for my room, and my brother paid for his room, and one of our best friends paid for their room. And so $600-ish a month, I was able to move out of my parents' house and start my life as an adult. And that's not possible right now. It's certainly not possible in this county. That same 3-bedroom in Campbell is going for almost $4,000 now. And likely is more expensive, similarly here, for a nice townhouse. So how are our children going to be able to stay around and continue to contribute to our communities? We're going to end up losing generations, and it's not going to do. If folks are on a fixed income, these rental prices are horrifying. If you end up losing your rental because maybe your landlord has to sell, if you lose your rental because they want to take advantage of the new market prices, a person could have a home and be comfortable in it for years, lose that home, and have no luck finding something that's affordable again. And I've seen it personally, with friends who are older, who live all the way up and down the line. Friends who work in Scotts Valley and live here in Boulder Creek, or live in Ben Lomond, or and they lose that rental they've had for a good long time at a favorable rate, and now everything on the market is more expensive than they can afford. And so they're left with very difficult choices to make, and extremely hard choices for a person who's elderly to make. Right? We've got to do better for our young and for our old. We have to respect, the folks who've helped lift our communities, and who mean so much to us, and we have to invest in our future. And if our kids all have to leave, our communities don't have a future. So what do we do? What are the solutions? Well, I personally believe the first solution is turning the government into a helping hand for folks who are building, instead of an obstacle. I believe we need to look at our regulations. We need to look at our permitting fees. We need to look at the attitude, of the folks who are deciding whether a person can build successfully or not on a property. We need to look at rules like the septic rule, the septic rule that makes it impossible to build a septic tank on a property that's less than an acre. This isn't an environmental measure, right? You can build a perfectly good septic tank on a half acre of land, no problem. This is a measure that was implemented to prevent folks from building up here. So that's just one of many things that we could change, right? I'm open to a myriad of solutions. I don't think that I have all the answers, but I'm listening, and I want to hear what other people think is the right path forward for us to solve this problem. And it's not going to be an easy solution, right? Every solution that we come up with, someone will be able to find something wrong with it. But how do we get from where we are to where we need to be? I don't want to throw out the good with the bad. I think it's important that we maintain good environmental regulation to make sure our water is clean and safe. And I think it's important that we give the people who are doing the inspections the right tools, so they know when something should prevent someone from moving into a home, or when there's something that we can just work on with folks. But it's going to take the human touch. It's going to take us as neighbors and as a community really coming together to figure out what the solution is going to be for us in our communities. In my opinion, it starts with inventory. Supply and demand isn't something we can get around. We need more homes in our area, And we need affordable homes. That's something that we can do. There are projects in place in other areas that have worked successfully. So we don't have to start from scratch, right? If we do the research, there are options. Let's start having the conversation as a community, and then we'll move forward step by step and start to close this gap. All right. Thank you, guys. I'll be posting this on a couple of different areas, and if you could comment or reply with your ideas for solutions, I would love to hear them. We'll be hosting meet and greets and some other opportunities as well, so that we can really hear, from the community and learn from you folks who've been here for 10, 20, 30 years, about what you think would be great policy moving forward. I'm all ears, and I want what's best for us. Thank you again. I'm looking forward to seeing you, and looking forward to reading your comments and hearing your ideas about how we make the change and get us from being the least affordable place to rent to a place where folks can afford to live and rent comfortably. All right. Appreciate you, neighbors.